Your friends at the Voice of Prophecy are glad to bring you this encore presentation of Disclosure.
The soundtrack tells me that we have to shape up and start saying nice things now that we are on the air. My name is Sean Boonstra. You are listening to Disclosure, brought to you by the good people at the Voice of Prophecy. I'm in studio today with two of my co-workers. One of them I'm married to, and the one I'm married to would not be Ruben Gomez. Right, Ruben?
You're right about that.
As far as I've checked. I looked at my marriage certificate. Isn't you? So now that I have clarity, I am married to Jean. Jean Boonstra.
Hi.
And,
good to be here.
Yeah, of course. I am the host, so I get to say what happens on this show. Jean, you are a co-host,
yes, sir.
But producer of Discovery Mountain,
yes,
radio drama for kids. Mm-hmm. And, of course, you are the producer here. You're the producer, Ruben, of this show and of Discovery Mountain and just about everything we send out the door, aren't you? But also, and you know what I'm going to do now, also the voice of Jake Donovan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It is a disaster.
Didn't you guys just did a massive event for young people.
We
did. I mean, I'm talking like, what ages were you at? It's a camporee for a youth organization known as the Pathfinders. And it was a pretty big event, no?
Oh, there were 55,000 people there, not just all youth, that's everybody. But it was, the Pathfinders are, I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know exactly. I think isn't it like 10 to 16?
10 to 16.
Roughly.
But
and 55,000 of them.
Well, no, all the people. So then their leaders and a lot of times families came. But yeah, it was a big event. It was really fun.
That is not for me. I don't know. You guys, were you busy?
Just a bit, I'd say.
Now, you set up with the Discovery Mountain booth, and you guys did something cool there, didn't you? Like, you brought Blue Birdie to life, which is, now, Blue Birdie is the airplane in the Discovery Mountain drama series. And didn't you bring her to life?
We did.
We had a flight simulator with Blue Birdie, and it was really neat, Sean, because we partnered with someone to create the actual program for the flight simulator. But then our team here, Palmer and Kyle and Ruben and Joel and Steve as well helped, built this amazing like curved screen and an actual seat that you could sit in and controls. And then like the outside of it looked like the front of a real de Havilland Beaver airplane. And Ruben was one of, Ruben and Joel and director Doug from Discovery Mountain, they were actually assisting the kids and plenty of adults too, right?
For sure.
The adults were lining up for this one?
Oh, yeah, the adults too, on how to fly the flight simulator. It was fun, wasn't it? You guys were so busy, though.
Oh, yeah. It was. Yeah, there was hardly a moment for downtime.
So they actually got to fly a plane with Jake Donovan?
They did.
Yeah, I bet that was popular.
It was amazingly popular, except for the one kid who said, "I don't want to fly with Jake Donovan."
That was really cute. Yeah.
So this was done on a field in Oshkosh, Wisconsin, or an airfield?
Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Yeah, it's, what is it? The
Whitman Regional Airport.
Yeah, Whitman Regional Airport. So the booths were in airplane hangars, and then the Pathfinders, most of them camped there. We stayed in a hotel. Yeah. Thank goodness.
You big babies. You big babies.
Yeah.
Did they have showers for 50,000 kids?
Yeah, but that's what, when we were planning this event, that's what like was the tipping point. We're like, I don't want to fight for a shower and have to wait till 2 a.m. to have a shower. So our team all opted for a hotel.
Oh.
Well, you're working from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night? I don't want to.
Well, the introvert that I am glad I did not go to that event. Crowds drive me right around the bend, and the older and crankier I get, the worse that gets. It's like, oh, no, give me my alone time.
It was crowded. It wouldn't have been your thing.
No,
I guarantee
no,
it.
I did follow it, however, on social media. Yeah, I was watching the tweets come out, and that's actually our topic today. We're going to talk about social media, but just before I do that, I'm always like, I'm the Cliff Clavin of Christian radio. Here's an interesting little known fact. Remember Cliff Clavin?
Yep.
Not promoting Cheers as a TV show or TV watching, I guess.
But that was part of our childhood.
But it was part of our childhood, and he was the know-it-all. And I'm willing to be that today.
Okay.
I'm looking at a study. This came out this past spring, and it's a Canadian study. UBC, the University of British Columbia. That's where my younger brother went for his graduate work.
Yep.
He became a lawyer. Lawyer? Whichever one that is. Yeah. At UBC. And the study is 12% of Canadians want to be in an open relationship. In other words,
12%.
yeah, now listen to this. Monogamy is not for everyone.
Okay.
In fact, 12% of Canadians say they would ideally be in an open. So we're not talking 50, 60%, but would a number like that surprise you?
That surprises me. I would think it would be lower.
Yeah, the sample size was 2,000 Canadians. And I guess you wacky Canadians, you are so liberal. But 12%.
It says the Canadian.
Yeah, and 20% said they tried it.
Interesting.
Oh, my.
1 in 5. You know what I find interesting about these things? It's kind of like soap operas. Soap operas, turn on what's the filter that makes everything glow during a romance scene? It kind of goes a little into soft focus.
Oh,
and there's
yeah,
a
vignette kind of thing? Or...
Yeah, and everybody's glowing and the soft music starts and they're having an affair. What they don't show you is the broken home and the venereal disease. And
For sure.
Yeah, and the same here. This is like, oh, isn't this interesting? Let's try that out. But they don't show you the wounded people.
Yeah. Were these people that they surveyed married or just in relationships?
55% of them were married.
Interesting.
55%. It's like, I don't know. What would you... If I were to approach you with that question, what would you think of an open marriage? How would that go down?
Oh, not well. And I would assume you had somebody on the side you wanted to have an open relationship with. I wouldn't think it would.
Asking?
Yeah, exactly. What else would prompt that, that question?
What legwork have you done?
Yeah, exactly. Like, why are you asking me this?
It doesn't show you the broken homes. It doesn't show you the wounded people. We know that, when the Bible says that the two become one and that you actually, Paul argues, don't go to prostitutes because it's a sin against your own body and you actually become one with that person. We know that that's actually true chemically now. You emit oxytocin, mothers do with their newborn babies, and it builds a chemical bond. And sexual relationships do the same thing. There's a chemical bond between two people. And when you mess with that, they only present this article like, well, isn't that interesting? Really? There are cases in the Bible. Obviously, we have some polygamy in the Bible. But take a look at how it goes down. It's never recommended.
No,
We've got
there are always huge repercussions.
Rachel
of that
and Leah.
life.
How did that go down?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
I don't know. So there you go. Interesting factoid of the 12% of Canadians want to add somebody to their marriage.
Yeah.
And my counsel to you is stick with God's plan because that is not going to end well. Anyway, not our topic really. I was just, I sit here reading articles between,
Did you find that article on social media?
I don't know. Yes, I did.
There you go.
Yes, I did. This is from my hometown newspaper, the Salmon Arm Observer, and I follow them on social media. So,
Ta-da.
ta-da. Nice segue, Gene.
In other news, there's a newspaper called the what?
Salmon Arm Observer.
Never.
You've never heard of Salmon Arm?
No, I have not.
Salmon Arm, British Columbia. Okay, there's this lake. It's Shuswap Lake, and it's got 4 arms in the lake.
Okay.
It's got like 1,000 kilometers, 600 miles of shoreline. And it's H-shaped, so there's Seymour Arm and Salmon Arm. And I want to say I grew up on Salmon Arm, but I failed to grow up on Salmon Arm. That's what actually happened. And it was, for a while, the sonnet capital of the world.
Really? Oh,
Yeah,
that's
because some, I think it was vodka company way back in the 80s, put out an ad. They saw this name of this town on a map and made fun of it. And they said, more people drink, I don't know if it was Seagram's or whoever, more people drink blank brand of vodka than write sonnets in Salmon Arm, British Columbia. And so, of course, small town got up in arms. Oh, you can't diss us like that. And they started opening a sonnet writing contest. And so they are now the sonnet capital of the world.
Oh, that's funny.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
funny. It's a beautiful town. Reuben.
Oh, you
It
have been
really
there.
is.
I
It's
did take you
beautiful.
there.
Well, yeah. I went to meet your grandparents there back when
They were still alive?
They were alive, and we were still in our dating years.
I took the kids to meet them after they were no longer alive.
Right.
We dropped by.
Took a road trip there to visit their resting place. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have a cousin who lives there now. Did I tell you that? My cousin Deborah's living there now.
No way.
Yeah.
Welcome to Salmon Arm, Deborah. I hope you subscribe to the Salmon Arm Observer. Yeah, that's the name of the paper, Salmon Arm Observer. I know, it sounds odd when people haven't heard of that town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. I thought it was just, there's a newspaper after a fish. Okay. But it's
Well, it kind of is.
It kind of is.
It kind of is. One of the world's I think the world's biggest salmon run is near there.
I think that's where it got
You
its
could just
name,
about walk
right?
across the river when the salmon are running on their backs. It's uncanny. So that's not our subject. We're going to talk about social media. We've done this already, Gene. You and I have talked about social media and how Christians relate to it in the world that we live in.
Right.
And I know that you guys in the control room are doing that, or having a discussion of your own. So I hauled our producer in here because I want to pick up that discussion a little bit and talk about social media and give you a chance to air your opinions. I don't know, what do you love? I mean, that's one thing Gina and I talked about, but what are the things you appreciate about social media and what are the things that kind of turn you off, Ruben?
You know, it's funny because I've always been a tech connected.
Yeah, you really have.
Like from the beginning. Like, you know, since I was 5, my parents told me, like, I'd go to computer stores and, how do you turn this thing on? And I'd go, oh, look, just, you know, turn it on.
Oh, you were that kid.
Yeah, I was that kid. I was the geek. I was the tech geek, and I still am. And so,
I never was, although I can program in BASIC and had an Apple II.
Right. You know what? I think that qualifies you as a geek.
Yeah, it does. It does.
You know, we wear the geek name proudly.
It's become cool.
It is cool.
And so, you know, I used to do websites. I used to, you know, be connected, you know, and when social media came around, I was like the first one to join all these networks.
Were you on MySpace?
I was on MySpace, yeah.
Is your page still there?
I'm sure it is. I was just wondering.
During the break, I'm going in there to look for it.
Yeah, no, please don't. And I think it's great, and I thought it was great. And man, I've always been super connected. But after I had kids and now, like, I'm getting cold to the idea. I don't like it as much as I used to like it because it's so polarizing. You know, the people who you consider friends and family, I don't want to know this stuff about you. Like, just, you know, all of a sudden I am a horrible person because I believe this one thing or I don't believe this one thing, right?
And so we put people in a camp over one post.
They're not addressing it to me, but they are indirectly, right? Because I am in that post. Somebody's going to be in that category of people, right? So all of a sudden, you're the bad guy.
So if they say, I hate those jerks who produce radio shows.
Yeah. They're not talking about me, right? But they are.
But indirectly they are.
Yeah, they are.
Right,
Well, I've never thought about that. Like, you don't know who you're addressing.
Right.
Yeah, I kind of give away the Jackwagon Award of the airport day sort of thing online sometimes. Like, I can't believe this idiot.
Yeah.
And I kind of slowed down on that because, you know, I don't know, maybe somebody does that. I gave an award out like, okay, this is the most inconsiderate guy in the airport, the guy who wears flip-flops on the plane. I hate that. Like, don't put your bare feet in my space. And then I thought, man, I wonder how many of my friends do
just
that.
offended.
And I just offended.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Interesting perspective.
I had somebody, you know, one of my family members posted something recently, you know, and it was a slightly hot button issue, and you know, it definitely got some engagement, and all of a sudden, so you've got people on one side of the issue totally agreeing with this family member, and then people on the other side of the issue like totally disagreeing, but in mean ways. At each other, but not directly at the person who posted it.
Wow.
And meanwhile, the people on both sides of the issues are dear friends and family. And I'm like, guys, do you realize what kind of position this puts us in? It's like, be quiet, stop. You know, like don't use my family member as your platform to snipe at each other. Like, you know, because it's like all of a sudden, you're still my friend and family, and you're still my friend and family on the other side of the issue, and yet you guys are fighting. What am I supposed to do with that?
No, not anymore, block.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
No, I've had to tell people to slow down because I have friends that don't know each other, and they go after each other. I talked to one person.
Exactly.
So I want to talk a little bit about families and Christianity and social media and some of those things, and what we're going to do is take a little break because, well, we got to pay the bills. We're going to take a little break, and actually, I want you to write down the information you're about to get because this is an incredible offer from the Voice of Prophecy. And we'll come right back, maybe with families and social media. All around us, the world is changing. Homes are being lost. Lives are being threatened. And some people are asking the question, does God even care about me? The Bible answers that question, and what it says is very encouraging. Find out what God says regarding this topic and some of life's greatest issues in our free Discover Bible Guides. You can get yours by going to VOP.com, click on Study, or call us at 888-456-7933. 888-456-7933.
As you may know, the Voice of Prophecy is supported by people just like you. We provide Christ-centered programs and Bible studies free of charge so that no one is left out. If you've been blessed by these programs and would like to pay it forward, we invite you to visit VOP.com/give to make your tax-deductible donation. We're equipping the world for Christ to come, and your support will make a direct impact on so many lives. That's VOP.com/give.
Break time is over, everybody. Wake up, wake up. It's time to come to. I'm in studio. My name is, well, I'm obviously in studio. How else would I be on the radio? Well, I guess we could be out live in a parking lot at like a grand opening of a grogrocery store.
You never know.
Why don't we ever do that?
That would be fun.
Hey, cue the grocery checkout sound effects ream.
Yeah, I don't know, but that might be fun. We get. What if we did that? We get opinions on religion. Was set up in front of King Soopers here. We
Kind
have
of
to
man on the street
talk
stuff?
to the people at King.
Man
King
on
Soopers
the
is a
street?
local grocery chain. I know that sounds weird, but it's King Soopers, SOOP,
Right.
Super. And we set up like we do radio on the road. Are we equipped for
Neat.
that even?
No, we could be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All we need is someone to
Wouldn't take
send
that
a
much.
couple $100,000 so we can get a truck and
Totally.
yeah.
Like I said, it wouldn't take that much.
No. For now, we just have to broadcast like this and on social media. That's our topic today, Christians and the social media digital world. And one of the reasons that I've hauled you in here, Ruben, is that you and I are kind of on different ends of the spectrum. And well, no, you're not at the beginning of the spectrum anymore. Your kids are kind of halfway through the. Yeah. But my kids are, I guess by the time this airs, one of them will be just about 20 and the other one's 17. Your children are
5 and 10.
5 and 10. So now we got the whole spectrum. I mean, my kids grew up in a world that didn't know social media, except that Facebook was becoming popularized when my kids were little. But now your kids are born into a world where it just is.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Except you know that Facebook's for old folks.
Yes, it is apparently.
And sorry, Mark Zuckerberg, words out, it's for grandparents.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's the
what
only
the
reason
kids
I have a...
think. Yeah,
That's the only reason I have a secret account there is just so that, and you can never, I will never accept your friend request on Facebook if you do happen to find me. It's just so that my parents can see pictures of the kids. That's why that exists. But what about raising kids in a digital world? Kids are more tech savvy than I was, although you admitted in this show that you started pretty young, and so did I. 8th grade, I learned, 8th grade, the school got an Apple II. Apple II, I don't even know if it was an Apple II Plus. And I was allowed to sit in there and learn BASIC. Remember BASIC?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. Line 10.
I remember being in 7th grade and we had computer class. And it was like, ooh, we have 4 computers in our school. I just really dated myself there.
My school got, they had an Apple or a Commodore 64, I think it
Oh,
was.
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Something like that. And, it had the big 5.5-inch floppy disks. And we
Yeah.
thought that was the coolest thing.
Dude, when I started, they had a
Yeah.
tape machine. That you would record the program to tape. It took 20 minutes to save what you were doing. Okay, but our kids, that's not the world they were in. I mean, everybody,
True.
it's the fairly rare family that isn't connected in their home anymore. Although I see numbers that surprise me sometimes, the number of people that have no internet. It does surprise me. I guess you're living at the end of, rural route. Rural, I can't say rural route.
Root.
Rural Route 82,
Tongue
and you're
twister.
20 miles out of town. But for the most part, let's talk about that. Let's talk about parenting in the digital world. Let's say now, Ruben, you're at 10 years into parenting. We're in 19 years into parenting. What would you guys say to brand new parents? They just got a brand new bouncing baby, boy or girl. And what advice would you have for somebody that is about to enter the brave new world of connectivity?
I would say slow down. For the kids, slow down.
Wow.
They don't need the screens. They don't need the phones. They don't need the tablets. They don't.
No.
They don't. You can either go with your gut or you can go with the science on this. The science proves that they don't. In fact, it's harmful for them. It's harmful for their brains. It's harmful for their learning. American Academy of Pediatrics says no. Like,
How do you know this stuff off the top of your head, man?
He's techie and
I'm
he's a
techie
parent.
and I'm a parent. And I do a lot of research.
Yeah, you've done some
And he's
thinking
smart.
about this.
Yeah.
So what is it about screens that aren't good for a 3-year-old?
I mean, so we can talk about the medical science behind that, and that's, the dopamine that it creates in the brain is a drug, right?
Oh, so it's a reward system.
It's a
I click
reward
this,
system.
I get a reward, and then you get addicted to the dopamine drug.
Yeah, if you don't believe me, try it. Try it. If parents out there, try it with your 3-year-old, 5-year-old for a day. Okay, don't try it, but try it for a day, right? Stick them in front of a screen for a few hours, and measure their behavior before and after.
Right.
Measure how willing they are to kind of, do what they're told before and after. See how easy it is to peel them off that screen.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I talk, anecdotally from observing my kids,
Yeah.
but the medical science says, basically the same stuff, I mean, if you just talk about dopamine, but then there's the other thing of, what's out there. Like, do they really need to be like taught to have the attention span of a goldfish? Because that's where our attention span is in North America right now, believe it or not.
Are you kidding me?
Actually, goldfish has a better attention span. No joke.
Wow.
No joke. This is, the study's probably like 4 years old now, so
but
it's
we've
probably
trained
It's
ourselves.
probably not going
probably
to
not going to get better.
Here's what I've observed. That
yeah.
when Abraham Lincoln was running for office, they would gather for a political debate, and Abraham Lincoln would get up and extemporaneously speak on a topic for 2 hours. And then his opponent would get up and speak for 2 hours, and the audience would stay through the whole thing
right.
and listen to it and weigh the arguments.
Yeah.
There's not an audience in the Western world today that could do that. And,
Right.
and I bet you're right. I bet we're teaching our kids very early that an argument is 140 characters.
Exactly. And the other thing is that social media is representative of the world at large, the world around you, and it's not. Social media is more and more, it's the extremes, right? It's the things that people in the past wouldn't say to each other in person, but they can because social media is kind of anonymous. It's kind of like indirectly passive aggressive, right? You can be that on social media, right?
Yeah,
I know.
Gene does that all the time.
Yeah. I've never done that. And to me, why do kids need to get that skewed sense of the world? Because eventually that becomes reality, right? If kids think this is reality, well, it becomes reality. And in my opinion, that's where the world will go. And I think that's just not good for the greater good, right? It's not good for the world at large. But kids they don't need that. On the flip side, it is a digital world. It is a connected world. So you do have to expose them to connectivity, And so, and I started realizing that real fast. Like, my kid doesn't even know how to type yet, and yet she's being expected to type up reports. So like, for us, the balance is finding enough exposure, but it's controlled, right?
Really, learning to type already.
Yeah.
I think I had to learn typing in the 12th grade because they wanted to send you to college able to use a typewriter.
Our kids learned in 4th grade, so your older daughter probably is starting to learn now.
Yeah, and in fact, they're kind of looking for it around 2nd grade now. At least in my school, it's not like being a fluent typer, but we realize, like, we don't even have a computer at home. We have all tablets and devices and phones, and so you don't know how to type on that, right?
So does any kid learn penmanship anymore?
They do.
It depends on the school.
You're right. It depends on the school.
Are we just
depends on the
typing and
teacher.
printing in block letters now?
No, handwriting's still there, but I mean, it's degraded even. With every generation, it seems like the quality of personal penmanship has gone downhill. So
No, it's funny.
Our generation
I asked our kids to read an analog clock, and they struggled for half a minute. We did teach them. They struggled for half a minute.
Right.
And I was laughing. They said, "Well, Dad, you can't read a sundial." Well, actually, Dad can read a sundial. They picked the wrong one. I nailed them to the wall. I said, "Well, let's go outside. I'll show you.
Yeah.
I'll build one with a stick." I had to learn that as a kid. Yeah, I think, the screen time is an issue. I like what you said a moment ago, Ruben, is that kids grow up thinking that's the real world, and what's on social media is not the real world. And I think about that having young daughters a little bit, and some of the issues that young women face. I wasn't aware of it growing up because I had just brothers, just a house full of dudes, and we don't really care what we look like. We don't care what people think. People said, "Sean, you're ugly." I'm thinking, yeah, that's probably true. But it's not that way for girls, and that's not real world. No. People sit there and they take 20 photos wondering which one they're going to put on Instagram. Is 20? The light right?
Right.
Is the
Oh my!
Before
I've
they choose one to post.
Way more than 20.
No, but for one post,
choose between.
So that's not the real world. It's a manufactured reality.
Yeah, really.
And I don't know. Maybe I'm overreacting, but it seems to me that a young lady who is, and maybe young guys too. I shouldn't be, because problems like anorexia are showing up with young men now as well.
Really?
And yeah, they are. And images become everything. And I'm not sure that's a healthy message too soon in life.
Right. No.
I mean, image matters, I suppose. You want to dress for the job you're in. You want to dress neatly if you're a professional and you're trying to sell things. You want to, image matters to a certain point, but does it really important to dress kids like models and pose for an Instagram shoot when you're 8?
Yeah, hashtag InstaPerfect.
Yeah.
Oh, is that a thing?
I just made it a thing if it's not.
There you go.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure I did not make that up.
Probably is.
Oh, I'm going to post my worst photos under hashtag InstaPerfect.
Well, and then yes, there's that part of it. You're trying to put your best self forward on social media, and you're comparing yourself to all these other versions of reality that other people post. But then you also like these young people are making themselves vulnerable when they do post, and then they're watching obsessively to see how many likes they get, and then if you
There's
don't
the
get
dopamine
enough,
hit. There's the dopamine hit.
Oh, that's very true.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And then if you I've had conversations with young people about this. If they don't get enough likes on a particular post, they delete it. And so it's hard to put yourself out there, and then you feel judged by your peers if you don't get enough attention on a particular post. It's
that's not
all
healthy.
very unhealthy. I think we can all agree.
We should probably open the phone lines and let the kids call in at this point. You antique dinosaurs. But I think you guys are absolutely, I think that's absolutely right. You don't put your worst foot forward on although can we ban the duck face thing?
Oh, please.
I think that is kind of dying off, hopefully.
Oh, what do you think? I'm pretty good at I look good in a duck face.
Oh, yeah, real cute.
I was just saying, I look good in a duck face. For those of you listening on the radio, I just attempted one. I think I kissed the microphone a little bit. The other thing that bugs me a lot is that I think you're teaching social isolation. And isolation and alienation are huge issues for young people. And ironically, social media, I think, teaches it.
Yeah.
I think it absolutely drives it home. And that's a topic we may have to pick up again after the break. But it isolates kids. Why do you think that is? What is it about it? I mean, this is science. They know that it creates negative relationships and a sense of isolation. How could that be? I'm connected to 800 people, but do I know any of them? Are there any genuine friendships there? Is that an authentic relationship? I don't know.
Yeah.
You guys, you both raising kids. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think it changes the dynamics of relationships. People can have long, deep conversations on social media, like by private message. I know our daughters have talked to us about this. But then you bump into that person in real life and you're like stumbling and stammering and you don't know how to talk. Yeah. So, it's harder for me to kind of wrap my head around all that because I didn't grow up in that. But our young people have grown up. This is the norm for them. And so even though the intent of the internet, of social media is to connect us, I think you're right, Sean. I think ultimately it's separated us from each other because that digital conversation can never replace a face-to-face conversation and a genuine relationship.
No, I think that's probably accurate. Well, you've got younger kids. What do you think? I mean, it may not be manifesting yet. Oh, we're at 30 seconds to the break, and I'm about to launch a question onto you.
I'll tell you what I think.
No, let's hold that thought. I'm curious what you're thinking about that because, at 10, I think alienation and isolation starts to show up in the way that a kid deals with the world maybe a little bit later in life. But the problem takes root pretty darn early, I think. And so, let's take a little break. We've got some incredible offers from the Voice of Prophecy for you. Grab a pen and paper. You want to write these down because we just have the most amazing things. So listen to this, and we'll come right back with Christians and social media.
Disclosure is just one of the programs brought to you by the Voice of Prophecy, like the audio adventure program Discovery Mountain. Discovery Mountain is a weekly Bible-based program for kids of all ages and backgrounds. Your family will enjoy faith-building stories with Jake Donovan, Mr. Simon, and others in this small mountain town. Each summer, campers visit Discovery Mountain, where they sing songs, learn about God, and reenact a Bible story with the help of drama teachers Miss Wendy and Miss Tamra. With 24 full episodes every year and programming every week, your family will have something uplifting to listen to every week. Listen to episodes on demand and watch video features from Director Doug at discoverymountain.com or on your favorite podcast platform. That's discoverymountain.com.
We have rounded second base and we are headed to third. I don't know why I always default to sports analogies. I'm not even really a sports guy. I'm not, am I?
No, you're not.
No, except I remember one time after having my wisdom teeth pulled, I came to and I went home and I watched golf on TV.
Wow.
And golf is the most, but that was actually my response because I was coming out from a general anesthetic and I was watching the golf ball go through the sky and thinking, whoa.
I have to tell a story on my dad. My dad will set his alarm to get up in the middle of the night to watch a golf tournament like in Australia.
No
I
kidding.
don't understand that at all.
It's not very exciting TV. I don't know.
Yeah.
Unless you're just coming to on a general anesthetic.
Yeah.
That's about all I can handle. Look at the pretty ball. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're talking about social media and some of the problems that it creates. I think we've identified. Look, it's not the real world, and it does tend to generate feelings of isolation and alienation among young people, oddly enough. You're connected to more people, but you don't have as many genuine connections as you would in a real relationship. I think we can identify, I think one of the other problems as the father of daughters is the number of creeps that are out there. I've mentioned this in other shows, but I have caught older guys, and I'm talking in their early to mid-20s, talking to my 14-year-old daughter, and I shut that down like nobody's business.
Yeah.
So
Instantly.
So here's the question, though. Here's the question. When I see that, I just want to shut it all down. No social media. I know what the risks are. No social media for my kids. That temptation is there. Is that something Christians ought to consider? And I want to preface this question a little bit by saying, your kids are your kids. Don't take formulas from people. I hear preachers get up and say, none of this for any of you.
Right.
And I don't know. You're the parent. You know that child, and God has put you in that place to guide that child to adulthood. You know them better than anybody else. But social media, okay, it's not great to put them in front of a screen, Ruben. You mentioned that when they're 3 years old. But do we just keep them from that world?
Well, I mean, notice I said slow down, right? I didn't say stop. And so, no. I mean, I think you can go to the extreme on anything. And it is the world. It is real. It's reality. And so, I mean, if by that kind of philosophy, where would we be today? If I just cut my kids off from the latest thing that can be abused or might not be good for them, I don't know what. That's not the answer either. I think somewhere there's middle ground. I think there's a happy medium. I think depending on their age, there obviously needs to be some controls and monitoring and rate. But at the end of the day, I think so sticking a kid in front of a screen of social media, okay, full opinion here.
Yep. No,
Could
go
be
for it.
seen as lazy parenting.
Sure.
I've done it. I'm going to admit, right? I got to do this, guys. Yeah, go ahead and watch YouTube, whatever.
Yeah.
Just being fully transparent. Right?
Every parent's
Right?
done it at least
Every parent's
once.
done.
Yeah,
Right?
there's two groups of parents. The parents who admit they've done that and the rest that are lying.
Right?
Right.
Yes, but you know what's also lazy parenting is just cutting them off from everything, right? Instead of what's hard is to actually. I'm probably going to make people mad here, but
No, go for it.
What's hard is being a parent.
Address your complaints to
Yes,
Ruben
yes,
Gomez,
exactly.
Box 999, love. But go ahead, say it.
What's hard in this world is be a parent.
Yeah.
Being a parent means you don't let them sit in front of the screen all day, but you don't cut them off either, because either way, it's kind of taking the work out of it. You don't have to be a parent.
Interesting.
Right?
Yep.
That's true.
Yep, it's
That's,
lazy.
Again, full opinion. Just.
Well, here's where I kind of sit on this one, and I've said this in other programs, but is my job as a parent to teach prohibition or to teach discernment?
Yes, thank you.
Yes,
Exactly.
And I remember there was this event some time ago, and a preacher showed up, and he was preaching to a group. It was somewhere else in the country. I wasn't there. And he apparently picked out some popular book, and no, it wasn't Harry Potter, but it was some book that's fairly popular in English literature, and said, no Christian parent will ever never let their child read this ever. And a parent was thinking about that and actually called me. What do you think, Sean? I said, well, what I think isn't really matter. You are the parent. You're the one God has put in their life, not that preacher, not me. You know what your child is capable of reading. But I would ask this question: how did that preacher know what was in that book?
Right?
The preacher read it. Right.
Yeah.
So the preacher has learned discernment. And I think your job as a parent is to decide when it's time to teach your child to discern those things.
Right.
And I can't make that call for you. So I remember when our youngest came to me, I want to watch this movie. And I looked at the movie thinking, all right, that doesn't exactly promote Christian values, but it's not raunchy and it's not, it doesn't have
not over the
sex.
top.
And it's not over the top, but it has a worldview I don't agree with. And I thought, my first reaction was, no, we don't watch that. And then I assessed it. I thought, no, here's a better approach, I think. Go ahead and watch it, but take notes. And when we are done, and I'm going to be there with you because
And
she
you
was
watched
young.
it with
I
her.
watched it with her. I want you to tell me what is different about the way Christians see the world and what you saw in that movie. And again, there was nothing raunchy. There was nothing over the top. And you need to relate. This is not advice for everybody, but I wanted her, and at the end, she made observations. Jesus would never teach this, and we don't believe that. And I thought, okay, now we're learning to look at the world with a filter instead of no, no, no. And my fear is, if it's no, 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 I've seen those kids, they get nothing but no's, and the day they turn 18 or move out of the house, they're all over the world because it's been the forbidden fruit. And now you are no longer there to teach discernment. It's just an open field.
Well, and they're not equipped to make good choices. I really appreciate what Ruben said, that, it's so much easier to say no than to do what you did, Sean, which is you probably didn't have an hour and a half or 2 hours to sit down to watch that with her and discuss it after. It would have been easier for you to just say no.
It was a terrible film.
Yeah. But
Not terrible morally. It was just bad.
Right. Yeah. But you engaged, and it does take time to parent and to parent well. None of us does it perfectly. We all mess up all the time. But it takes time, and it's an investment. And I think finding that balance at different ages and being able to learn and shift as your kids get older is important. Here's a practical example. As our daughters were entering academy, it was right at the time, high school, when schools were switching from paper textbooks to iPad learning.
Bad move,
I have a
everybody.
lot of opinions about that. Yeah.
I'm old enough. I want dead trees.
I prefer paper books for learning too, but I understand some of why they went to iPads. But what I noticed was we had created those age appropriate strategies and given them exposure to screens, etc. And so they transitioned fine to using an iPad. But some of their friends had grown up in families where it was no, 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 no. And their academics suffered because they didn't even know how to use an iPad. Now, so, those practical things, we have to realize that these technologies are part of education, whether we like it or not. They're part of the workforce. And so giving safe exposure at different age levels, I think, is a positive thing ultimately.
Yeah, you don't want to turn your kids out incapable of dealing with the reality of the world.
Yep.
And yet at the same time, you better be there teaching them what the reality of the world is, and that Instagram is not reality.
Yeah,
it's not reality. It's too easy to pick on our kids. Our kids are just about out of the house. We're just about back to empty nest where I can
almost.
Yeah, I can
Another
streak.
year.
I can streak from the shower to my dresser and not wonder, is the door open, or do they have their friends over? Because you just don't want to see your dad in his underwear when your friends are over. So we're shifting to empty nest, and it's going to come on you faster than you suspect, Ruben. But let's talk about, it's easy to pick on kids, but let's talk about social media and you a little bit. Why is social media important to you guys personally now, apart from being a father and a mother and a parent? What about you? What role is it? As a Christian, what role does it play in your life? How do you use it? What concerns do you have?
Yeah, well, social media is a tool. It's, like television's a tool, radio's a tool, right? It's a way of getting a message out there, and I think done appropriately, it can be effective, So as a Christian, everybody's really good at expressing their opinions, and why shouldn't I express my opinions or my thoughts or share what I think, is a wholesome kind of Christian value or thought or, So it's to me, I see it as a tool. And yeah, I do have the discernment to know that it's not representative of reality, and it's a megaphone, so there's no filter, right? There's no gatekeeper like in a news organization where you have an editor saying, no, that seems a little off, we're not going to put that out there, whereas social media, you can put whatever out there and it becomes truth, right? If enough people say it's truth, it's truth.
And we do live in a world where we speak of truthiness instead of truth.
That's exactly right.
Is it true for you?
Yeah, is it true for you, right? But so I have that discernment. But I also know that it's just a tool for me, and if I see something that needs to be said, I tend to say it,
Yeah. So do I. You can go find my Twitter feed. I have many regrets. Yeah. It's the Hall of Regrets, my Twitter feed. It is. And I don't know. I use it as a social life, which is sad. I mean, I'll admit that that's sad. But my life is such that it's usually a 70, 80, 90-hour work week. And so my social life is 2 a.m. on Twitter. Who in the world is awake and so on. As our kids are growing up, Gene, and leaving, I'm thinking, ooh, I like this because I can creep what's going on in their lives. I can sort of stay on top of it. And I, as a father, can become completely aware of any young man that shows any interest in my daughter. And I do creep them. I do, guys. Yeah. Sorry, I'll find you. And I'm pretty good. No, I will.
Giving Ruben future ideas.
Oh, yeah, no.
His 2 daughters.
Hold on, where's my pen?
Oh, no. Yeah. I am paying attention. When they were younger, paying attention because of the problem men in the world, the pedophiles and so on. But right now I'm watching it thinking, I'm pretty good at figuring out if you're a loser or a man boy who never grew up, or if you're going to be good for my daughter. A man boy. No, there seems to be an issue where we grow up later in life than we used to. It used to be out the door at 18, you better know how to work.
Yeah. Sure. That seems to shift with every generation.
Adolescence has expanded. So I'm creeping for that kind of stuff. I just am. And I did find it interesting. Sorry, kids, you're going to find out. I've been creeping your social media your whole lives. I find it fascinating the way they see the world when they don't think I'm there.
Yeah. I do too. And I am talking about which different platforms we're on. I had a Snapchat account for, I don't know, a couple months, just so I could see what the kids were doing on Snapchat. But I quickly abandoned that because I just can't keep up with all that stuff. But what I realized was they knew I was on there, so they just know how to filter so I don't see everything. Exactly. I mean, they're smart.
You can see everybody who sees your stories, right? So
you can.
Oh, I'm going to block this person
I didn't know
from seeing my stories.
Yeah.
Or you can post private stories.
Exactly. And Instagram's the same way. Like,
I don't even like the sound of private stories. Now I want to see my kids' phones.
No, I just started. Sean's going to start
with
a
every
Snapchat
platform out there now. Yeah.
And Instagram just started this thing where you can do your stories only to close friends. And so Natalie, who's very sweet and doesn't try to hide anything, she added me to her close stories on Instagram. But then I'm like, Naomi, you don't have a close stories. And she said, yeah, I do. You're just not on it, Mom.
Yeah, no, that sounds like our
thanks. Yeah.
I'm not on either now. Now I'm feeling a little wounded.
Right. Oh.
No, I actually don't care if I'm on Snapchat. I just don't care.
Well, I'm not on there anymore. Definitely not. It was just too much to keep up.
We're coming up against a hard break here in a couple of seconds. Let me throw this thought in there, though. One thing I do like is when I'm creeping my kids on social media and I see their Christian faith come out.
Yes.
And I see them actually living their faith, and it tells me, they own it. This is not mom and dad's faith. They love Jesus, and this is their comment on that.
And you see them encouraging other people. That's
exactly.
Really cool.
So that's been a big plus and a reward. We're going to take a break, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about social media. We're going to run out of time again today, but right after this, we'll come back and finish with Christians and social media.
Retirement planning can be a stressful process, but it doesn't have to be. The friendly people at the Voice of Prophecy can walk you through the entire process and explain all of your options based on your specific needs. Whether you'd like to set up a trust for income or make a gift that will benefit your loved ones and change lives through the Voice of Prophecy, we're here to help. To learn more, call 1-800-348-5993.
Earthquakes, tornadoes, wildfires. Around us, homes are being lost, lives are threatened, and some people are asking the question, does God even care about me? The Bible answers that question, and what it says is very encouraging. Find out what God says regarding this topic and some of life's greatest issues in our free Discover Bible guides. Go to VOP.com and click on Study, or call us 888-456-7933.
It is time for the fourth and final segment of today's episode of Disclosure. Amazing, unbelievable talk radio brought to you by the good people at the Voice of Prophecy. And there you go. How was that for a plug for what we do?
That was good.
That was a little self-aggrandizing, though, wasn't it?
Sounded great, though.
Yeah, I'm not convinced we're the best on radio, but we're at least in the top million.
I think
We
I
are at
agree with
least
you
in the
there.
top
At least in the
million
top
broadcasts out there.
At least.
Yeah. Let me do, actually, I wasn't going to do this, and I just changed my mind during the break, but let's put on our tinfoil hats for a moment. Let's talk social media, and I don't know. The reason I'm doing this actually is for scriptural reasons. I see this scenario in the book of Revelation that's going to come one day where you're controlled, what you buy and sell, what you're allowed to say. And honestly, I do believe that Christians get pinned way more often in the Western world on social media than other people. We're mocked, and that's nothing new. People have been mocking Christians since the beginning. I remember, was it 2nd or 3rd century, they found graffiti that showed a donkey on a cross, and it said, Alexander worships his God. And so people have been mocking Christians that way.
Sure.
I think that Facebook just amplifies it. But we have this scenario coming where there will be more and more control, more and more top-down government, that kind of thing. And I know for a fact that certain things get censored more often than others on Twitter and so on. So if I come out with a Christian opinion, I'm more likely to face Twitter jail than someone who comes out with an atheist opinion. It just seems to me that that's the case. I don't feel persecuted. I'm not here to say someone should force Twitter to change because it's privately owned.
Right.
That's not my point. But one of the things that does bother me, remember you and I were making beds one day, and I mentioned some obscure product that I had never mentioned in my life, and the phone is sitting there charging, and 2 minutes later I get an ad for it in my Facebook feed. And I know Mark Zuckerberg says they don't do that. I know they're arguing up and down, but remember when I said to Natalie, she came home and said, man, I've been stuffy. She had a bit of a sinus thing, and I said, man, you need a CPAP machine. 5 minutes later, ads for CPAP machines on Facebook.
And it wasn't that you had Googled it and researched it. The only instance of it coming up was verbal conversation.
Yeah, and so I don't know. Am I wearing a tinfoil hat, or does that happen? Yeah, you don't want to say.
I don't know.
Has it happened to you? Does it appear to? Is it just because we said it now we notice it? I don't know.
I tend to think it's the latter more often than not. But again, I'm not necessarily, I've been an early adopter of all of this stuff.
Right.
I mean, the minute smart speakers came up, we have 100 in our house now. It's like they're all over the place.
You have an Alexa?
Cameras. We have Google.
Oh, you have
Maybe I
Google.
shouldn't say which one I have. Yeah.
No, but you don't have an Alexa, so you
I
didn't
don't.
hear the laughter at 2 a.m.
No. I mean, our sprinklers are automated.
No. Get out.
Our thermostats on the internet. We have cameras at the door.
Oh, so if I got your phone,
Nice.
I could cook your family right now. I could
You
bump
could.
it up to 90.
Yeah.
Put on the heat.
You definitely could.
Yeah.
Yeah, my bird would drop dead first.
Aw.
That's why you get a bird.
Canary
Yeah,
in
I get a
coal
bird.
mine. Yeah.
Right.
I don't know. Here's what I wonder about. You're creating a trail of everything. And is there going to come a time where you're going to regret leaving that trail behind?
It's interesting.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that. Yeah, I have a healthy dose of skepticism for these big corporations that are, purely ad driven, right?
Right.
So don't get me wrong. I'm not endorsing them. I think it's scary what they know about you. Go into your Facebook settings and find out. Just click through the ad settings, and they will tell you what political leaning they think you are, what religion they think you are, what.
Really?
I didn't actually know that.
They
Really?
do.
That'd be
And you
worth
can go in
finding.
there. You can control that. It's just you got to dig.
Here's what my prayer would be,
Interesting.
is that
Just
if
based on
it
the
ever
posts.
came down to, a world where I'm standing on trial for being a Christian, I would love for there to be enough evidence in
you are
my
a
social
Christian.
media feed to convict me.
Yeah.
I want to be guilty.
Yeah, I'd
Yeah.
like to be guilty of loving Jesus. I've got no
Absolutely.
issue with that. All right, let's talk about trolls a little bit, because Christians and trolls, you mentioned it. You get friends that go at each other's throat. They're not even trolls.
Right.
How do you handle people who get out of control on your social media feed? I mean, here we are. We're supposed to represent Christ in this world and so on. But I've had people who don't seem to have much common sense. I'm talking to a friend who doesn't happen to be a Christian, and someone who is a Christian jumps in and starts lambasting them for something they said and destroys what chance I had at sharing my faith. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. What do you do? Do you block people?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
They can't see you nodding your head, you guys.
Yeah.
I didn't know who was going to talk.
Yeah. I have blocked people extremely rarely.
Yes.
But here's the thing. It is social media.
That's right.
It's social. And I am there as a private citizen. And I feel like I have the right, if someone is doing what you just described as the perfect example, where I feel like they are causing damage, then I will block them. And it's extremely rare that I've had to do that personally. I think I mentioned the last time we sat down and talked about social media, I got rid of my Facebook account, my main Facebook account. I have a tiny private one, as you mentioned, that's just for my family members. And so that's how I handled that. I just removed myself from Facebook, basically. And do you feel good when you have to do that? No, it's not ideal, but I think it's okay to do that. Mm-hmm. It is. It's okay. Just like in real life, it's okay to set boundaries.
Yes.
It's okay to end friendships when those friendships become negative. It's okay to do all these things.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a little bit of guilt that goes with it, isn't there?
Absolutely.
It's like, but I'm supposed to be a witness for Jesus, and I just turned them off.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel that guilt?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Do you block people, Ruben?
I have.
Yeah,
Rarely.
did you block me? Wait a minute.
Oh, well.
Not
anymore.
I just got blocked. I don't know. Do you block them?
Rarely.
Yeah.
So I will, I agree. Boundaries are important. Mm-hmm. And you know what? I have boundaries, and there are boundaries that you can't cross. If you cross those boundaries, you're going to get blocked. You're going to get, but here's the thing. Again, you talked about it being rare. I think it's rare for me too. If I'm blocking you on social media, I'm probably defriending you in real life.
Yeah.
Right? It's got to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, here's what I do every once in a while. And this is more of a me issue than it is a you issue, right? Sometimes things bother me more than they should, right? And I'll start thinking too much about it. I'm like, man, that post really just got under my skin, right? And so I will snooze that person on Facebook or whatever for 30 days.
Oh.
But that's a me issue.
I didn't even know you could do that.
You can.
You can. Yeah.
Again, that's probably a me issue because in the moment it's bothering me more than it should, right?
Yeah.
I won't block that person, but I don't want to have the kind of animus that I have towards that person as a result of that post.
Wow.
Because I know in real life, we're okay, Mm-hmm. So I've done that more frequently than I've blocked people.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now,
I've gotten blocked a lot.
Have you really?
I know I have. Yeah. I know I have.
Wow.
Yeah.
That the snooze feature is really nice because no one knows that you block them. But I've done that before too, where things are like affecting me and I'm thinking too much about them.
Exactly.
And I'm just like, I don't need to be thinking about this stuff. And so you just make it go away for a little while. It kind of gives you that mental
I'm going to have to be looking
space.
at that.
Right.
After the show's over, guess what I'm doing? And I'm going in and
you're going
snoozing both of
everybody.
you. Yeah, I'm gonna snooze everybody. I don't know. Sometimes I think you probably should
but I have important
unplug
stuff.
completely for 30 days, take a little fast from the digital world.
I've done that. I've done social
Yeah, it
media
irritated me because
fasts.
you weren't there when I wanted to show you something.
Right. I know. But before I do a social media fast, I always tell you and the girls, Sean, I'm like, if something really interesting happens, just show it to me on your phone.
I went probably 2 or 3 months, maybe more this year, without the Facebook app on my phone. So I still accessed Facebook periodically, but I had to do it through my browser, which is a little bit more cumbersome.
Yep.
So you'll
And
do it less often.
Felt great, yeah. I mean, my mood. There's actually, I like talking about studies, but there is scientific studies that actually back that. That's a real thing. Social media depresses people, it pulls people down, and and I realized that was happening to me far too often. These things were just bothering me more than they should.
Right.
And I was like, okay, for my sanity, I'm pulling myself back.
Yeah.
And I did.
And so it gives you a better frame of reference for the world.
Exactly.
Yeah, because that's right. I find myself getting worked up about things I shouldn't get worked up about. And I'm thinking, is this the way I want to live? I've blocked people though because if they jump on one of my friends
Oh, yeah.
And they're irrational. First, I'll DM, direct message them if you're over 80. and I'll say, hey, that was out of hand. But I remember one lady, I did that, and then she went public with our conversation. And I finally just blocked her, and she was abusive and manipulative, and she started sending notes to the office like, how am I not supposed to feel bitter against your ministry? I think sometimes that if you just put up with bad behavior, you're enabling people, and it doesn't hurt for them to realize there's a line over which you can't go, and I'm not going to let you go over it in my world. I just wonder, blocking means sometimes not enabling people.
And to that person,
go ahead, Reuben.
To that person or people who do what you just explained, I would challenge you if you find yourself in that position, look real carefully, because it's usually not the other person. It's you. It's a you issue. There's something deep down that is bothering you. And, there's this thing called transference. You're projecting that on other people. So if you feel bitterness, that's not Sean's fault. No. That's not, you got to look at yourself.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's good advice.
No, I'd agree.
Yeah. That's good advice.
Well, we're all Christians around this table. We make a habit of studying the life and ministry of Jesus a lot. So, quick question. I mean, and this is, there's no right answer, I guess, but in your imagination, in your sanctified, biblically informed imagination, do you suppose Jesus, if he had come to earth now instead of 2,000 years ago, would he have been podcasting? Would he have been using Twitter? You laugh, but I mean that.
That's a good
because
question.
if I'm trying to follow in the footsteps of Jesus, I want to think about the question like that. How would he use Twitter, and would he? I don't know. Do you think he would?
Hashtag Sermon on the Mount podcast? Or...
Hashtag love your neighbor.
I think we can debate this, and obviously,
we don't know.
Theoretical, obviously. Well, if someone would have asked me, I don't know if I should say this, but I'm just going to say this. If someone would have asked me 5 or 6 years ago if the president would be using Twitter, I would have said, yeah, I don't think so. But our current president uses Twitter. He uses it a lot.
The last few have used it.
The last one used it too, probably not as much. But would Jesus use it? I believe Jesus' goal when he was on the earth was to connect with people in real practical ways that they could understand. Look at his parables. They were very, very practical. And I do think he would have used whatever platform was available. But here's where I don't think he would have used it, because I know for me as a Christian, this has been a struggle at different times. I sit down in the same place at our kitchen table to have my devotions every morning.
Yeah, I know. And I don't go anywhere near that spot at that time of day.
Sometimes you do, and you just lean in and look at me. Yeah. But occasionally I have taken my phone with me to that spot, and something has happened where I have looked at social media, and before I know it, my worship time is over, and I have not even opened my Bible. All I've done is stare at my phone. And that is where we are responsible for our time, stewards of our time, and Jesus wouldn't have gone down that road.
Reuben, would Jesus use Twitter?
Whoa, that's a point.
And you have 90 seconds.
Oh, man. Here's the thing. I'm going to answer that without answering, I think, and that's...
you big chicken.
Yeah, I know. Proudly. I don't know. I mean, again, I agree with you. Jesus connected with people where they were, right? As a ministry, Voice of Prophecy, we try to connect with people where they are. We're active on social media. We're active on podcasting. We're active on TV and radio, right? And I think that's what Jesus wants us to do. It's hard for me to say that Jesus would be on Twitter. I don't know, because it's a little bit of an uncomfortable position for me.
I don't know, right? Actually. I know, and we don't have time to resolve it, but I don't know. I don't think so. Personally, I don't think so. There were forums available for public communication. There were theaters. Jesus never booked one. That's true. You could hang public notices in the forum, in the marketplace. We don't have a record of Jesus doing that. We have a lot of record of Jesus interacting with people personally.
That's very true.
Yeah. He was all about relationships.
I don't know. I'm not sure that it would be true, but here we are. It's there, and Christians are exploring it. I want to thank you guys for taking a little time. I don't know that we provided any answers for anybody, but I think it's important for Christians to consider the world we live in and what our witness looks like in those avenues. So both of you are working on another season soon of Discovery Mountain. So go to discoverymountain.com to learn more of what Reuben and Jean are up to. And as for me, it's time to sign off. Until next time, I'm Sean Boonstra.